Hello everyone, it's another tactic video from me, and this is going to be for Durumu the Forgotten from Throne of Thunder. So in this fight we're going to use 2 tanks, 2 to 3 healers of 5 to 6 DPS. It has a 10-minute enrage, and also we're going to use here at the start. So the first abilities I'm going to talk about are abilities used in the first phase and the second phase, which is the normal phase and then the colourblind phase. So in this we have a tank swap, which is hard stare, and hard stare will reduce the healing by 10%, so we need to make sure we're switching on 5 stacks. Also, the tanks will get arterial cut on them, which will only be removed when they get to 100% health. Of course, this means that it gets harder as they continue to gain stacks of hard stare, so we just need to concentrate on keeping the tanks up as much as we can on 100%. The next ability is Force of Will, and as you can see here, a very rubbish smoke, purple smoke, but that's basically what it is. One player will be targeted with purple smoke and they'll need to avoid it, and DBM should tell you when that's coming and when to avoid it. The next ability is Lingering Gaze, and with this ability 2 random players will be targeted and they'll need to get to the back of the room because when they get hit, they have about 3 seconds. When they get hit, it will do AoE damage, and then when they do get hit as well, it'll leave a void zone, and as you can see I've left the void zones at the back and at the edges, and that's where we want them when we're in the raid. So the next ability, this is the one for the 2 phases as well, is Life Drain, and with this it's just what it says, the boss will start draining player's life in the raid. Now of course we don't want to just leave that player, they'll be stunned and he'll be draining a lot of their health. So what we're going to do is we're going to have people intercept the beam. We're going to have a team of 2, DPS and healer, intercepting the beam, taking it in turns, taking the stun and taking the damage, so that we basically share it among them and that someone doesn't die. So I'm going to tell you about the second phase abilities, and in this basically it's the beam phase on LFR. So we don't want to discover a blue, so when the beams come out we will have a yellow beam, which will start on a random player and move around its zone. We'll have a red beam and a blue beam, and with these beams we need to make sure that we've got groups in them because the beams will cause damage, and we've got to have the raid member with the red beam move around to find the red fogs. Now there is a note that at the beginning of this phase there are some flashes, 3 red flashes and 1 blue, which do tell us where the ads are, but they are quite hard to spot, so just a note to look out for them if you can. But with the red beam we want to make sure that we find the fog and then make sure that we keep the beam on them while we're fighting them. The reason because if we take the beam off him again, he will start doing crazy AoE damage, and we don't want that. So basically making sure that we get in the beam, getting the right beams, and then the people in the red beam will DPS the red fogs down. So as you can see here, the ranged will go in the yellow beam, the healers will go in the blue beam, and the melee will go in the red beam, killing the red fogs. Now with the tanks, we want to make sure 1 tank is in the blue beam and 1 tank is in the yellow beam. This is so that they don't have a tank in the yellow beam. This is so we don't have them in the melee beam, which is the red one, and that they still can attack from behind if need be. So that's it with that. It isn't that bad. As I say, the blue beam we're going to keep still, the yellow one's on its own, and it's just basically killing the red fogs and getting through that phase. Once 3 are dead, that phase will end. The next phase, which is phase 3, is the disintegration beam, and as we all know, this is very similar to LFR, and all we need to do is make sure we survive the maze. We might be marking someone that's better if we do have problems, but everyone should have enough practice now with the maze, and we should be able to get through it fine, making sure we survive and do as much damage as we can to Durumu in this phase. Remember, at the beginning of this phase we go to in front of the boss before he starts to beam, and you will see what look like kind of snakes on the ground, and that is the side we need to go to. So make sure it is just like LFR, so make sure that you just survive the beam as much as you can. So with this fight really, it isn't that complicated. We need to just make sure that the people get in the right beams, that we don't discover a blue, that we kill the red fogs and keep the beam on them. We need to make sure that anyone with Lingering Gaze gets to the back of the room, no void zones in the raid, making sure that you move from Force of Will, making sure that the tanks swap at 5, and basically just making sure we do the fight right. So there we go. Hopefully this is helpful, and hopefully we can kill him on Sunday. See you later, guys.